Okay, we're live. This is the Aussie PhysEd Hangout on Values Education. Now, Aussie PhysEd Chat, bring up my face there. Aussie PhysEd Chat is going off lately. Wide range of topics we're discussing all day, every day, basically, on the Aussie PhysEd Boxcast group. So, values education is something that's coming up a lot, and we're going to talk about that in depth now. But first, a quick whip around just to say, Mr. Sean de Morton, g'day, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Daniel. Thank you so much for the invite. Pleasure to be here.
Aaron Gardner, how are you?
Good, thanks, Dan. Mr. Daniel Zito, very happy for a Saturday afternoon to be hanging out with you boys.
Yeah, back from camp this week as well.
Back from camp, so feeling a treat. Feeling a treat.
And the Master Yoda, Mr. Andy Hare, back from camp as well.
Yeah, back from camp. I've been 2 days back from camp and had a late night last night with staff and parents, and an early rise for a ride this morning. But yeah, no, it's great to be here, and it's great to see you not in person, but rather than a voice as well. So, hey boys.
All right. Yeah. Put faces to the names, actually, isn't it? So values education, it's been a bit of a hot topic for us, and there's some really great things going on around the different schools. So we do want to get into that, but I guess values education, what it means for us, I think about that saying that it takes a village to raise a child. And I think obviously parents have a very vested interest in the values that their child is raised with. But if we do believe that saying, then we've got a real responsibility as educators to take part in raising the child and to bring them up as a good person. I mean, that's what values education is for me. It's raising good citizens, basically. So we're going to have a chat about the practicalities, what we are actually doing in our class. My program's evolved a little bit over the last year, especially. What I was doing last year was having general chats with my students about values and what they were, and I had a bit of a display going, and I'm just going to share that up on the screen now. That was this one. So you can see the values, and they were permanently on display in my gym, and they're still up there. And that was a bit of a talking point, a bit of a reference for my students. And during games, we'd come back to them when things came up. And it was good. It wasn't great. I just found that having so many values there and doing it on an ad hoc kind of basis was just too broad. So it's changed now, basically, and I'm trying to really hone in on skills one at a time and have a more intense focus on them. So that began this year. An idea I got from Sean, actually. We do a bit of planning together, and he and I both did a gallery walk at the start of our year, so I'm sure he'll tell you about that as well. But that was where we just put up posters based on our school values, his school having different values to mine. And in saying that, I don't think it matters which values you're actually focusing on, as long as you are choosing some and focusing on them. So for my school values, we go by respect, integrity, optimism, and pride. So this year, rather than having all those values that I put up there, I've just chosen those 4, and I'm doing a short, intense focus on each of them, just to get that deeper understanding, rather than the airy-fairy, broad values discussions. So the gallery walk that I mentioned was where students had access to one poster, whether it be the respect poster, the integrity poster, or so on, and had to write down some actual examples of things that they could do in phys ed and in sports to show that value, to show that they're displaying that value. We did that in our first lesson of the year and used that as our phys ed rules ongoing. So I just picked a few of those and said, look, I love this idea. You know, students have said that we can respect our sports equipment. So let's make it one of our phys ed expectations that we respect our equipment in phys ed, which was a nice little base, but I still felt I had to go further from there. So I spoke to when I had a chance to speak to our year 5 and 6 levels in the preparation for our inter-school sports program. We had a big chat, and I chose just to focus on one, just to hone in on, because I'm big on goal setting, and I know that when you put too much in there, it's hard to track your progress. So we had a big chat, and I said to the group, right, I've got a goal for inter-school sport this year, and it's probably not what you might be thinking. Our goal is to be the most respected school in our sports division. because they were probably expecting, something to do with winning games or so on. So I started that chat by showing video of the John Landy 1 mile race in 1956. That was the one where his opponent had a fall during the race. He ran back, picked him up, finished the race, actually happened to win the race. And then you can see at the finish line, as soon as his competitor comes over the line, he's straight over there to help him out and see how he's going. And I just scanned around the room, all the other teachers was there, and we said, look, who remembers this? Who's seen this footage before? And all the hands went up, obviously, because that's something that we remember. It's kind of gone down in history. And I said to the students, look, there were other races on that day. There was the shorter races, there was the probably the long jump, I assume, the high jump, but I actually don't remember who won any of those. I remember the John Landy race. To be honest, I don't remember who won most of the races in the most recent Olympics, let alone that one. It's gone down in history, and so I said to them, why do we remember that 60 years later? And we got to the point that it's because he first showed respect to his competitors and in turn gained respect. And I said, if you can gain respect in sports, your deeds will be remembered for much, much longer than just a good win. I use the tennis example as well. There's a lot of people out there, if you listen to any sports radio, people up there, there's constant people calling in to complain about competitors out there at the moment that aren't respected because they don't respect themselves. I named a few tennis players and said, do they respect their equipment? Do they respect their opponent? And so on. And then I brought up a few tennis players' names that are always in the competition in the final couple of days, making it to the finals. And how do they actually conduct themselves on the court? And we got all the answers you'd expect. They respect their opponent, they respect the umpire, and so on. Because all their energy is able to be focused then on the game and how they play. Yeah, jump in there.
Just with that one there, mate. A good one with the kids, Federer. And he was one of those blokes that not necessarily respected equipment and stuff early on in his career, and he built that as he went on. And we all know what Roger Federer has done with. So he's a real good one to actually look at how he's progressed in his career as far as respect for equipment, for opponents, for umpires. So yeah, he's a good one as far as tennis goes, anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point, Azza, and I guess that is a good point you make, that these things aren't inbuilt. They can be learned and they can be changed. And sport just provides us with so many of these examples. And I know you guys will go into some of your favourites as well, but yeah, there's something about sport. It's just got everything in life encapsulated in it. So it's not hard to, you don't have to look far to find these examples, do you?
Absolutely.
And so that basically was our grounding. But still, the issue there, well, not the issue, but area for improvement is when I set that goal for my students to be the most respected school, if you know much about goal setting, it's that it needs to be measurable, and that's a difficult thing to measure. So that brings me to my main point. What I'm doing now in my classes is building values into my planning and into my specific learning intentions of which the students are informed. So something I've got a little portable whiteboard in my gym, and I've got put up there, and this has come from you guys, and I love your work on that because it's just improved my gym so much. I'm going to put a picture up on the screen, but every lesson has a distinct learning intention. It's got success criteria, and it's got a challenge activity. These are from you guys that you're doing as well. And what I found was that it's not good enough just to put the skill in there that they should be learning, but also the values they should be showing as well. So if I just pop that up on the screen. This is a lesson I've just done this week. And it was actually just a warm-up game called Collect the Cone, where students had a whole heap of cones, 20 or 30 cones spread out, and they had to throw a ball or beanbag to hit a cone to be able to collect it. But what I did before the lesson was said, look, this is your learning intention. Today you're going to have integrity, as well as learning about target games. That was the other thing in my planner. You can see the middle column there, the success criteria. How do I know if I've had integrity? Well, I was honest about the score. They had all sorts of games to play where they were scoring. So I'll just come back to me for a second. So once I explained the rules of the game, I said, look, integrity is going to be the focus here. This is what we're looking for. And then I said to them, what is something you might do in the next 2 minutes in this actual game that shows integrity. Because you need, for it to be measurable, you need to have actual examples, not this airy-fairy word like integrity. So we said, yeah, you've got to be honest and fair. What can you actually do now? So they put up their hands and said things like, if someone in your team says you hit that cone and you know yourself you didn't hit it, you can say to them, no, I didn't hit it, so I won't collect it, and so on. Then at the end of the game, we sat down and I said to them, look, I'm a little bit interested to find out how many cones you collected, what your score was, but more so, I just want to share now if you saw someone else showing integrity. So we made that the main focus rather than the score. What really hit home for them is that what integrity was written up on the whiteboard there. They knew that was what they were there to learn. It's written in my planner, so I knew that was what I was meant to be teaching today. And I guess what's very important to me at the moment, what I'm finding is working really well, is that it's not being pushed on the back burner. Because if it's not written in your planner and it's not made clear to the students that that's what they're supposed to be learning, then you're not valuing it, I don't think. So yeah, if values are going to be up there on par with skills, then we need to put it in our planners and we need to make the students aware of that. So I'm keen to find out what everyone else is doing and hear your thoughts on that. So I'm going to hand over to Sean and hear about some of the things that he's doing in his class at the moment. All right.
Thanks, Daniel. And it's a pleasure, as I said, to be here, and fantastic to hear all the wonderful things that you're doing there at your school. And it's been fantastic to work alongside you in dual planning this year, which I think is really pushing us both professionally in different ways. So thank you for not only inviting me here today, but also for giving up the time to help dual plan. So values at my school, in Gracie, and that was 4 years ago now at an ACHPA conference, and I've got a PowerPoint from him from that day, and I still refer to it quite regularly, and it's called The Little Things, and it's all about. I still remember him. He's an American, and he had a full lecture theatre there at Monash Uni, and he said that your content is so far second, it's almost fifth in terms of being in relation to creating good human beings. And he actually said, and looked a few people in the eye and said, there are some of the best sports people in the world, they are the worst human beings. And that probably comes back to some of the things you were saying there, Daniel, that not only do we have a duty of care to teach these kids the skills for being involved in sports, but also the tools for life and to actually integrate into society and maintain relationships, whether they're professional or or husbands, and just being good human beings. And I think that's something that really resonated with me, and I took from that very day that I need to make sure that I'm doing something to make sure that I'm doing that at my school. I guess something that's quite easy for me and our current setup at the school is that we're now a primary years program, so PYP, and we have some things that link in very well in terms of the learner profiles, and there are some of the things that you were mentioning, some of those words that you were mentioning, so risk taker, communication, collaborator. There's 10 of those. We also chose in our dual planning 4 attitudes, and I noticed that we slightly went for different attitudes as part of our essential agreement. I went with integrity, respect, enthusiasm and tolerance. And the kids, as you said, went round and wrote down what it meant to them. What does that look like in PE to you when you're showing respect? And from there, as they walked around the hall, they own it. So now when they're pinned up nice and laminated on the wall, it's being very proactive with their values and knowing that when they come to PE, that's what's expected. And I guess it needs to go further than that, because we often talk about these values. You can't just have them hanging on the wall. They need to be in your planner and also refer to them through games, as you say. I've got the same setup as you, thanks to Az and Andy and Aussie PhysEd for sharing those resources of the learning intention, success criteria, and the challenge activity, which as I'll now plug even further, saying that that is now catching on like a wildfire, in that I have actually put those adapted, thank you Azza, adapted for the other learning areas of LOTE, art and music, even library, will have them up at my school this week. So across all learning areas. I've had classroom teachers ask about these, so you can put those values in there with your content. You can't afford not to have them. It's a game changer. That sort of sorry, I'll take a breath.
Single subject, Shauno. Harry's new favourite buzzword: single subject.
Well, yeah, that comes from PYP land, I think, doesn't it, Harry?
It does, and let me explain it why. It's because, and I don't want to offend any viewers out there, but our specialist refers to someone that has gone to university, been trained in that area. Unfortunately, the nature in schools in Victoria are that sometimes, like us, we chose to be in that subject area, but quite often, probably 70% of our single subject teachers are teachers that have been asked to be into that area or given that area. So they're not specialised to teach that. So we've just referred to them a different way. It was an Andy Vasily thing that he got me moving on. So sorry, mate.
No worries. So I guess with those learner profiles and your attitudes and even your essential agreement that the kids agree on, even calling it an essential agreement rather than classroom rules, which are all have those values sprinkled within them, it's important that you also reward them for showing those characteristics. And I know at our school, every week we have the Star of the Week, and that is explicitly given for kids demonstrating different learner profiles, which are all values-based and connected to your learning intentions, success criteria, challenge activity. And my next thing that I was going to talk about, I hope I'm not treading on toes, with the tap outs. So these are a series of cards that are ranked from 5th, being the best rank that you can demonstrate, down to 1, which is the Ewok. Now these have all values in them. They have a little criteria underneath each one, Star Wars themed, which the kids are going bananas for. The top one being the Master Yoda or Master Jedi, which we all aspire to be, whether we're in a primary school or not, working with anyone in the class, coaching our classmates, providing positive reinforcement, and then it works all the way down to the Ewok, which is just, you read it out and it almost makes the tongue stick to the back of your throat. They're just very negative connotations. So the kids self-assess themselves at the end of the session, and sometimes I've forgotten. We've only sort of revisited this year, and they're reminding me, Mr. D, we haven't tapped out. They want to do it because they want to show that they've been that Master Yoda Jedi. And even in the classroom on a Friday, I'll be mentioning, if a boy doesn't want to go with a girl in an activity, you've got to be looking for that Master Jedi sort of set up there in whatever activity you're doing. And I guess we work in also our resilience program for care, where we have a passion, because I know Andy Hare will talk about passionate about what you do, and if you're passionate about what you do, then you're going to put your best effort in. So kids can actually choose at our school a passion of the teachers that they've chosen, and on a Friday afternoon they'll actually get to do that, and that's also heavily linked with our values program, being in a PYP school. So off the top of my head, guys, and I will sort of come in and out, I might hand it back to Daniel, and we might have the next person share some ideas.
Daniel.
Yep.
You there, Daniel?
Hello. So we're back again.
Daniel had snoozy time.
And I've got to say, my internet's just on it. well. My school just played Sean's school in inter-school sports, and I had a couple of the kids from my tennis team come up to me, just excited. They just said, "Oh, we just love playing that team," and they don't say this about every school. They just said, "Oh, the girls we played against were so nice, they were so friendly, and so on." And it was just such a positive experience for these kids. You know, they've actually found a love for that sport now because they enjoyed the match so much, which is a reflection on Sean's school and the work he's doing there. So, love your work. Another really exciting thing that we've heard a lot about in the Aussie PhysEd chat is, I won't steal Azza's thunder, but he's doing some great things there. So I'll flick over to you, Azza.
Thanks. Thank you. So, yeah, I had a big, look, I had Big Andy sitting in the left of my screen there, take me under his wing a few years ago. Very new to PhysEd. I had taught it overseas in London, but very new to it in Geelong. I'd been in the classroom for probably 6 years and was always looking for that escape route back into PhysEd, and I eventually got it, and had Big Harry take me under his wing. So I've been pretty lucky in that we've worked pretty closely together for the last sort of 18 months, and been building a few things together, which has been good. So this year we've got values at our school, at Grovedale Primary School. I don't love the way they're followed by the staff at our school. I don't think they're probably given enough. I don't think they're giving enough viewing to the kids. I don't think they're pushed enough for the kids. So I made that a priority this year. That was something I wanted to do, and it was something I wanted to do around someone that I thought the kids could relate to, and someone that I related to really well. And it was someone who had been in the news a fair bit. So I went with Mick Fanning. Obviously, the kids down here, we live down near the beach, and a lot of the kids I teach spend a lot of time at the beach. So I just thought if I could pick someone like Mick Fanning and base my values around him, it'd be something that we could work with very well. So that's what we did, and that's who we've gone with. So it is working a treat, I must say, and I'll share a story with you later on when I get a little bit deeper into it from a family after week one of working on these values together. So, yeah, chose Mick, and Mick had obviously been in the news, so I'm just going to share my screen. And I'm sure they'd heard about one of his brother not long after the shark attack, and also a lot to do with his family life and his wife. So I just thought it was something I could very much use with the kids. It's something the kids would really understand. So went with the Mick Fanning factor, and then really try to stick around the values of our school. And I'd been talking to Andy Hare and Andy Vasily, and had been onto Andy Vasily's blog and been studying that pretty hard with his values and what he was doing. And I just thought 10, maybe a little bit too many for my kids. So I scaled it back to 6 that really sat in line with my actual school values. Just so I guess need to please the boss and the bosses at all times. So I went with this. I went with resilient, motivated, committed, humble, respectful, and honest. And I think there's something that kids, when they understand what the words mean and how they look in a sports setting, I think it's something that the kids can really relate to, and something that kids can really work on. So we're doing cross-country training at the moment, a little bit just at the start of PE. We've got our cross-country, district cross-country coming up. And we're really pushing at the moment the commitment, the motivation, and the resilience. So not always really pushing all 6 at one time, but just having them in the back of our mind. And the kids are really, I've got a little kid in prep named Ollie, and he runs around and he sings those words to himself. And he'll finish his race, and he comes back and he goes, "Could you hear me, Mr. G?" And I say, "Mate, I could hear you from the middle of the oval." And he was like, "I'm resilient while he's running. I'm committed. I'm motivated." This is a grade 1 kid. You know, if I've got a grade 1 kid that's running while he's running, going, I'm resilient, I'm motivated, and I'm committed. And he sings it while he's running, and I love it. I just think he's listening, you know.
Hey, can you share that poster? I think you were going. Have you shared it?
Oh, my apologies, mate. I thought I did. Hang on, I'm sharing it right now. So here's me talking about it, thinking I was sharing it, and I was just staring at it myself.
Yeah, we're just looking at you.
Apologies. Are we there? Is it there?
Nah, still on you.
Oh, man, I know I'm.
I'll give you a round of applause for it.
Okay, so entire screen share. Talk to me now.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Up. Great work.
Jeez, pick the bloke that's been on this too much. I love it. This is what I'm running, and this is I've probably got 4 of these up in my gym, and I'm slowly actually feeding them out to the classrooms. And I do have one grade 1-2 teacher who, before I even got to her with one of these posters, she went and actually printed the words off herself for her 1-2 sport time, and she's now made a massive display on it in her room. So I should have taken some photos to show you guys today, but yeah, look, it's working a treat. I'm really happy with it. We've posted a few things. We posted a few things to Mick Fanning on Facebook and on Twitter, and I haven't been able to get the comment back yet. But we've had a like. We've had a like, so we're happy with that. And we're gonna keep hammering with it. In the next 2 weeks, I'm probably gonna flood everything I can because he's due down here very shortly for the Rip Curl Pro. So I'm going to see if I can just annoy the crapper out of him to see if I can get him to swing past Grovedale Primary School, meet the kids at some stage. We'll see how we go. So that's what we're working on at the moment. It seems to be working. I'll finish off. I don't want to hold you up too much, but I had a parent come and see me after the first week, and she said, I don't know what you've done with the kids and the Mick Fanning factor, but whatever you've done, it's working. She said, so we were driving to Warm Pond Shopping Centre last night, and the kids were in the back, the 2 kids, one boy in grade 6, one girl in grade 3. And the grade 6 boy, who's our school vice captain, says to his young sister, the windows are down, we're going to have a race. First one to get their window up wins. So they have a race, and the little boy, the older boy, wins and starts gloating to the sister in the back seat. And, you're no good, I'm always going to beat you, you'll never be able to beat me. She turns around, she says to him, have you not listened to anything Mr. G has taught you in PE this week? You are not showing any of Mick Fanning factor values at all. And the mum and dad turned around and said to them, what are you talking about? What are these Mick Fanning factors? So they went on to explain what it was. Well, the mum and dad came to see me the next day and said, well, whatever you're doing and whatever you've done, and this is only week 1 of school, it's working, so keep doing it. So I thought that was a bit of a plus in week 1, that someone's actually taken it in, and it has taken effect somewhere. So Dan, I'm just going to follow on very quickly from you before we let Harry go, because we know he will have a lot to say, of much importance too. But you and Shauna were talking about assessment, and Shauna, you were talking about the tap-out cards. So I really push those values with the tap-out cards as well, and really try and link those together. Again, I think we're all doing the same thing with the learning intentions and success criteria, and I'm making sure that the values get put right through those. I'm actually running with the Avengers and the Ninja Turtles, Shauna, rather than Star Wars. I thought I'd go something different with my kids. So the Avengers from 3 to 6 and the Turtles from Prep to 2. But Harry and I we've been having some pretty big discussions probably in the last couple of weeks, and you might touch on this, Harry, but we've been talking about the curriculum and how we assess, and the fact that we know a lot of the kids and parents know where the kids are skills based, where their own kids are, and if they don't, that's an issue. But they do know whether their kid can throw a ball, that sort of thing. So Harry and I have been talking about, well, can we? Yes, we're still going to assess on this, and yes, we're still going to mark our dot based on this. But can we give the parents something else? And we've been talking about how we can assess on our values and on our attitudes and that sort of thing. So I reckon Harry's going to, just with that nodding head, he's going to touch on this hopefully a little bit deeper than me, but I hope I'm leading you into that, Harry, because that's the path I guess Harry and I have been talking about heading in the future. And can we give the parents something a little bit deeper and a little bit more meaningful that we think they'll take a lot more away from than just us giving them a dot that we mark and giving them a comment that your child can throw a ball, fantastic. You know, they knew that because hopefully most of them were out there throwing it with them on the weekend or kicking a soccer ball with them on the weekend. So I'll leave it there, Harry. Hopefully you're going to touch on that a little bit deeper, mate, because I think it's worth a conversation around.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's Aaron. It sounds like it's spreading, obviously. To have actually parents know about it and talking about it. But you mentioned as well you had a classroom teacher putting up those words as well. And I think it's really key just for your students to have that common language wherever they go, when it's in the car on the way home, when it's back in their general classroom, in their art room as well as their phys ed room. That common language is gonna really deepen their understanding. It's quite tricky when you've got students possibly for an hour a week. But if you can spread that, they're really going to come out on top. But sorry, we're talking about assessment, and I know Andy's going to pick up on that. So I'll flick over to you, Andy, and all yours.
Thanks, boys. Yeah, I'm going to hit that one first up, and it was last on my list. You know, as a good educator, I write a nice little list of things I want to talk about, and so the idea of assessment, I guess it goes like this: is that we are always burdened by assessment, and when it comes time to write reports, I don't know any teacher that enjoys it. We go through the motions, so we're actually not giving the parents the emotional connection to our class. And after lengthy thoughts, I reckon, and I reckon I was trying to chase you up those mountains during the summer, Sean. It was based purely on trying to give the parents something that they don't know, and they know exactly where their kids are at. They'll tell you. I had parents last night. We went out. We had a staff function, and parents were there, and I must have had 5 or 6 parents tell me exactly what their child was like in PE. Their child doesn't like coming to PE. Their child's no good at throwing. They need this. They need that. So they already know that. So when they read it in a report, there's no surprises to them. So I've been studying a lot with Andy Vasily over the last year about mindset education and how mindset really plays a massive part of growth of students. And so the theory, which I'm not allowed to do it yet, because there's powers to be that want you to assess a certain way, but my theory is that once I get a hold of this and get it running, the mindset assessment is going to give an attitude assessment on how that child is performing in physical education, because we're not a sports class. So in saying that your child can run up and down a basketball court bouncing a basketball is a statement of sport. It's a statement of skill, a physical skill that parents already know. In terms of that gun basketballer is also the worst kid in your school, and mind me, I've got to just take a walk as my battery's just told me that it's going to go low. But the pretense around it is that we want to be able to report on the children as they see fit. Sorry guys, I've really just mucked up here. I'm trying to find my charger at the same time. I know where it is.
Well, I'm getting up for a tour of your house on the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So the mindset education, as I said, it sits around the values that we really want to be able to give the parents that direct feedback as to how the child is performing emotionally, how the child is respecting other people, how they're using the equipment, how they are responding to the different contextual knowledge lessons that we're putting on. Because I know that Azza, I know you, Daniel, I know you, Sean, all teach in an amazing different way. And as much as we're in this little bubble with our Aussie PhysEd chat group, it does not happen everywhere. And we've really got to recognise that, and with the kids, we've got to give the kids the power of assessment, and the parents the knowledge of what the kids are doing, with their mindset, and the relationships they're building with each other inside the educative process. And that will give them a whole structure of how their child is performing overall. And then there's no surprises. So that's where that assessment idea comes from. Now, if we peg it back to values and try and connect it, and going into a new school, super tough, trying to establish new values. And I thought about it for a long time, really struggled with trying to get staff that have been in the same school for 25, I've got one that's been there for 35 years, teaching the same subject area, to actually move and change because they don't see it that way. And it was really important just to establish 3 simple little words that they could connect with. They're actually connected with the whole school, because the whole school's got something like 12 to 15 values that they go through. And when we got kindergarten kids and year 8 kids all in the same campus, that is way too much. So I ended up pegging it back, and the reason I pegged it back to this is because exactly what we've said and we've repeated throughout this presentation is that we wanted kids to connect with it and use it and actually own it. So my whole value system sits around 3 words: commitment, relationships, and dreaming. Commitment is they come to PE with the knowledge of what needs to be done. They get in there, they can see the learning intent, they can see the success criteria. Now let's go back a couple of steps again. Learning intent, success criteria at Leopold Primary School, last 3 years, the kids asked for it. At the end, the kids actually assessed themselves based on that language up there. Now let's move forward to my new school. The kids had never seen it. So teaching them what a learning intention was, and why is Mr. Hare writing on the whiteboard, and success criteria, well, why are you telling me how I'm going to be successful already before I'm even doing the activity, was really uncommon to them. So I had to sort of bring all that in. So a commitment to the lesson. So they walk through the door, they know what's going to be ahead of them because it's all inside their, like that visual display. A bit like the flipped learning that you boys set up over summer. Relationships. Now I put this in the middle because I want the kids, I'm very strategic how I put these words, because I want the kids to actually understand that they're in the middle of a grade, they're in the middle of a school, they're in the middle of a town, they're in the middle of a state, middle of a nation, middle of the world. They are one to the world. They actually add value to the world, and them developing relationships with each other, with their teachers, with their parents, with the cleaners that come through the school, with our extra helpers that come in and run things, to the person that pumps up the balls, to the guys that mow the grass, just in that school environment, is massive, because that builds the character of that child and it builds the identity of that child. And that's really where we then get back to that mindset based program and mindset based assessment. And then dreaming, and this was one that I really wanted for children to really grab a hold of really strong, and it's getting them to visualize and dream that nth degree. So where are they going to go with this? Why are they doing this? And where can they take this? And you know, as you guys find in your schools, you've got an array of different abilities. But if you sit in there with the grade 4, 5, 6s as a whole group and you say, who wants to be a professional athlete, you got 90% of the kids putting their hands up, and that's okay. So my goal is to make the kids dream, to make the kids actually have a big picture and go, I am going to play NBA, and then get them to start working towards that, because it's given them a hook to grab onto. It's given them something that is really, really strong and concrete to be able to wrap their hands around and go, okay, that's the end result. Now I've got to peel it back and work out what I need to do to move to that step. As the kids get older, I can work with them and actually have a bit of a chat about what they need to do to that next step, and that's great. For the young ones, we can identify their role models. So if they want to be a great basketballer and play NBA, then we've got to start with our bouncing skills. And then we use the provocations to bring in and trying to get these kids to identify with provocations, because even ICT is a low priority in the PE department, whereas again last year it was a high priority, and the kids knew what a provocation was and they could find their own. So these kids, it's great. It's a great challenge, because giving them the scope to be able to be as creative as possible is an amazing thing, and it's an amazing assessment tool that we can jump on. Am I back to me? Yeah, I am. Yeah, beautiful. So the other thing I hold in high value there is the character of the child, and trying to talk to the staff and communicate to the parents, and also then to the kids. And the kids are first in this line, so I should have put them first. But understanding that the character of the child and the developmental process of that child is far greater than the outcome. To be honest, I couldn't care less at the end of the lesson whether the kid could or could not catch. It's how they went about it and how we actually unpacked that process from start to finish. If they get it, sensational, we can move to that next level. If they didn't get it, then they know where they are for the next week, and we have that that conversation around that. And so that again ties all that in. The values themselves in education, and this is a really big thing. It sorts out restorative practice. Strong values in your classroom can be set up with the support of a conflict corner, where the kids can actually go and have a discussion about those values, what was the issue, and try and sort it out. And there was a couple of great educators last year on Twitter talking about this. We had a guy from leading, it wasn't leading teams.
I've got that conflict corner.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so the conflict corner was there for the kids to have first dibs at trying to sort out the problem. And if they couldn't sort it out, that's where we came in, and we then used that educative approach. Since having values education, I don't get angry. You know, where you once used to go troppo because you couldn't believe what was happening in front of your eyes, you now just bring it back to the values, and it might have come with maturity as well. You know, now that I'm 30, you know, I'm a lot more mature than when I was 21. But that's really important. It's really important to acknowledge that as a teacher, that we have to really establish those values with the kids, and then we can refer back to that all the time. And the second last one that I wanted to talk about, well, I guess to start with the values, having that developed by the kids. You know, we're big on, Andy and I have spoken about this, and we're massive on the kids having that identity and actually moving forward and owning everything and constructing everything and bringing everything together. And we're merely the facilitators of it. And that even means having a plan, not a lesson plan. Seeing where the kids can go in that lesson, and being old school and actually writing up what you did in that lesson after you've done it. Because having a lesson plan constricts you a little bit to your plan, because, you know, we're human and we go, well, this is what I wrote. This is the task I've got to get done because I know where it leads. But really, in all honesty, we should be actually setting up a bit of an idea, seeing where it runs, documenting it, and then launching again for the next week. And the final point I wanted to make is power of language. Sean, PYP, it's a brilliant program, and you know, I work a little bit with Evan Godsif over in Korea as well, and I mentor him, and he's a PYP. In fact, I should match you two up. He's a PYP teacher as well, and just going through it for the first couple of years. And the power of language is so important in education. It's so important with kids, and You know, you hit the nail right on the head there, Azza. Is that
Sorry,
payday?
just on the, I think you're on the money there, mate. That was amazing.
But you hit the money right on the head because you said it. The kids in the back of the car listened to the language that you were using in class and were using that in their own conflict to sort out their own problems. Instead of arguing and getting mum and dad involved, they sorted that out themselves through the values that you've set up. So I only had a couple of points, and I thought it would only take 3 minutes, but you know me, it goes for a bit longer than that. And I'm glad you enjoyed the tour of the house. Awesome. I can show you the rest of the house.
I want to see the bike, Andy.
What else you got?
Oh, the bike. No, he stays wrapped up.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll wrap it up. I always come out richer for having chatted to you blokes, whether it's on the Voxer or now face to face through the screen. So thanks a lot. Some powerful things going on. We'll, I guess, as we always do, continue the conversation on Voxer. But I should maybe give a shout out to everyone in the Aussie PhysEd group. Andy's set up a nice little aussiephysed.weebly.com website now, showcasing some of those teachers, and there's just so much cool stuff going on. So that's where I'm about to head now. Enjoy the rest of the day, guys, and we'll.